Yu-Gi-Oh 101 card review. Here to review a card that was released in Crossover Souls February 14th, coming to the TCG May 15th. Superheavy Samurai Glove. It's an Earth Machine effect monster. Level 3, attack 100, defense 1000. Description: if this card is sent to the graveyard and you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Then place them on the top of the deck in any order. When an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can banish this card from your graveyard, excavate the top card of your deck, and if it's a super heavy samurai monster, add it to your hand. If you do, the attacking monster's attack becomes 0. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. So basically, there's some self-touching going on here. On top of the fact that you can pretty much put yourself in a position where you can destroy your opponent's monster when they're attacking your monsters. You're able to, control what card is on the top of your deck, and you'll be able to activate this effect right away. So it's not like it's a bad effect. It's all about using it well. That way you don't have a bunch of banished samurai gloves, so that you don't end up, you know, without that monster in the graveyard. I don't know what the hell I'm saying, but that way you don't run out of super heavy samurai gloves when you need them. You don't want to just use this randomly. So, like machine duplication can search these out quickly or like quicker. So you'll be able to get those into the grave a lot quicker. You can use Foolish Burial, obviously, to get it into the graveyard while you have no spells or trap cards in there. I have yet to see a super heavy samurai build that did not have any spells or traps in it. So that's always a challenge, even when you use like cards like Soul Release. I mean, still, you know, that spell card is going to end up in there, thus you won't be able to use that effect. So it's all about using. Well, no, I take that back then, because I mentioned Foolish Burial, but that's a stupid. That was mentioning Foolish Burial was actually foolish for me to say, because then you end up with a spell and trap in the graveyard, and then you don't want that. So I don't think it will work. Um, so I would say use a monster effect. Obviously, that's your best bet to get this into the graveyard without you know having too much to worry about. I mean, obviously you can have it in face down defense position, and your opponent can destroy it, and you can activate it like that. But you know, you would want to get it into the graveyard, or at least uh, preferably, you would want to get this thing into the graveyard. Um, I guess you would say as early as possible, or like at least sometime like during mid game. That way you can have them in there already to use. So, I mean, it's just when it gets sent to the graveyard. So, after it gets used as a synchro material monster, after it gets used as an exceed monster, or like whatever the case is, because it doesn't specify where it has to be sent from. So, it had it said that it would have had to been sent from the field to the graveyard, or from your deck to the graveyard, or if it specified a certain place where it had to be sent from, then you wouldn't be able to detach it as an exceed material and send it to the graveyard, then activate it. But because it only says just send it to the graveyard, as soon as it hits the graveyard, that's when the effect activates. That's when it triggers. So it could be sent to the graveyard, and the effect is to activate as an exceed if it was an exceed material. So other than that, it doesn't really come to mind what monster. I know it's a monster that can be used with the super heavy samurais. It may not necessarily be the monster in the archetype, but I know it's a monster. I can't put my finger on what the name of the monster is, and this is like one of my downfalls. Like, I can never remember the name of the cards because I haven't played the game in like a while, and I haven't researched cards to really keep up with the actual names of the cards, so I kind of like suck at that. But I remember the effects, and I know it was something that could be used with the Super Heavy Samurai so that you can get monsters in the graveyard. So maybe this could maybe that card could be used with this. That monster could be used in like a build like this to help get them in the graveyard quicker. Maybe. Like I know giant. Well, I know that giant rat can search it out quicker, but it's gonna put it in attack position. So I guess you would have to brace yourself to take that damage if you use that, unless you use something like no entry to switch it to defense mode, which is actually a pretty good card to use for the super heavy samurais. Um, in case you do use giant rat, you want to have that option to quickly switch them to defense mode. That way you don't take any damage from that, um, from any battles, unless the monster has piercing. But then that's something that can't really be avoided. Let me see. I know Soul Piercer can search it out. It can add it to your hand. But I was thinking of something that could send it directly from the deck to the graveyard. But it kind of defeats the purpose if you use like Foolish Burial. It kind of defeats the purpose of doing that because I don't really, I don't know. Like I can't think of anything that can, or any monster off top of my head that can remove spells and traps from the graveyard. Um, that'll work good in the super heavy samurai. So that's kind of like the mind-boggling thing right here for me is that I can't think of what to necessarily use with it in order to activate that effect quicker. But it is what it is though. But I mean, it is level 3. You get 3 of these on the field. Well, not necessarily 3 of these, but super heavy samurais have 2 tuners. One's level 2, and I think the other one is level 3. So you'll be able to get their synchros out relatively quickly, using this card and as well as some of the other monsters in the archetype, obviously. But for what it does it pretty well. So the only challenge with it is trying to get it in the graveyard without having any spells or traps in there, so that you can activate that effect, because that's a useful effect. And I don't know, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, is to not have spells and traps in a build, you know. So that's all I got to say. So link to this card is going to be in the description. You guys can check it out, and I'll see you for the next card review. Peace.